Thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak with you today about something that I love more than anything. And I always start off, every talk by acknowledging those that have gone before me. Of course, call the name of Dr. King has gone before me, but I also have to call the names of, my own ancestors, people who have given their lives so that I might have life. I have to acknowledge them and bring their spirit into the room. I also acknowledge the ancestors, your ancestors, those who have come before you that have given their life and to give you life to be here. And so without them, we could not be together today. So we stand strong because we stand on those shoulders, and standing strong on those shoulders will help us change some of the issues that are facing us, so that those who come after us will also be standing on our shoulders and stand strongly proud of our shoulders. John Jensen was this world-renowned architect, and people thought that he just put together the most beautiful park using natural landscapes. And he was moving and retiring to the South. I believe he was going to Kentucky. And people were saying to him, "Oh, this is so wonderful that you're moving to Kentucky. The people are so lucky to have you come because you're going to come and you're going to make everything so beautiful when you get there." And he said, "No, not really. All I have is a skill set. Whatever folk need in Kentucky when I get there, they already are the experts on that. I can help them facilitate what it is they want, but I don't have any expertise to share with them, because every community has intellect to heal itself. They already know what they need." So my understanding of food justice comes from the bottom looking up. It doesn't come from the top down. So when I talk about food justice, I was talking about my neighborhood, my community on the west side of Chicago. This gray area here is Chicago. And we work primarily in the Austin and the west, this is east and west Garfield areas. There's the largest study that we did, which this slide is a part of, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of how to orientate Chicago, or my community, to the rest of Chicago. Austin is the largest community in the city of Chicago, over 170,000 residents. And its nutritional environment, we've had 64 bodegas. There was one supermarket, $134 million spent on groceries by those residents, and 80% of that left the community. So when we looked at the Austin community to find out what was really going on, we just found out that, as you can see, that little one guy was all he had, plus the 64 stores that were surrounded. So in order to solve what I thought was a problem in terms of the issue of food access, one of the things that I found out was that I couldn't find this food readily available in my neighborhood. So when I was looking for organic food 14 years ago, I had to go outside of my neighborhood, significantly outside of my neighborhood, to find what I was looking for. Food that was free from GMOs, food that was free from pesticides, food that was not highly processed. So I did a little experiment, and I started trying to shop 10 minutes from my house, and I could not buy the things that I needed for my family 10 minutes from my house. I could get every variety of fried chicken 10 minutes from my house. I could get Popeyes, Church's, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I could get Uncle Remus. I don't know if y'all got Uncle Remus down here. So we got Uncle Remus in Chicago. We have Harold's Chicken. I could get every kind of hamburger. I could get every kind of taco. I could get all kinds of cigarettes with great variety. I didn't even know there was so many kinds of cigarettes and potato chips. I could get varieties of potato chips, hot chips, ranch chips. What are those things called? They have a nacho flavored chip. They have all kinds of chips that I can get, but I couldn't get an organic tomato. I could get designer clothes. I could even get bootleg designer clothes. I could get a semi-automatic weapon. I could find narcotics. I could get cocaine. I could get heroin, but I couldn't get a cup of yogurt. So the issue in the community is not the distribution system at all, because clearly it's operating in some capacity. But what it's bringing to the community is the problem. So to solve that problem, for me, food justice meant getting vacant lots, converting them to, converting those vacant lots to urban farm sites. This was my home in the back here. And we literally converted lots in the front and in the back of our houses. We ended up with about 10. We tested the soil. We worked with kids from the community, and I have a whole other philosophy about kids and urban farm sites, but I'll share that with you all later. These kids were part of a program, an environmental science program, and they literally came around and tested our soil for us so that we knew what the soil levels were, both in terms of nutrients and contaminants. We brought in compost, yards of it, created raised beds, and created the farm sites. We did not hire youth for our program. We hired men who were out of the job system. We hired the uncles and the fathers of these young people who were not working anymore. And we paid them. Because the idea that I had was that if I could get Poopy's uncle off the porch, I might be able to get Poopy off the porch. But first I had to prove to him that I was really interested in their well-being and their family's well-being. So it was no sense in me going after the kids. I needed to get his father. And so as we started to hire young men, well not young men, but men from our community who had skills. They were tradesmen, they were carpenters and electricians and for whatever reason, construction workers who had fallen out of the job market. When we started to hire them, then we started to get the attention of our young people in our community. We developed a farmers market. We did a grocery store. We did several iterations of a grocery store. I did one called Organicos. I did one called Graffiti and Grub. I did another one called Family Fresh. So I'm a serial grocery store operating kind of person. But I've done a couple of those, and you know, they all have their interesting levels of success and failure. Bodegas in the community and people who are cooking every day don't have lack of food. That's not the issue. And the solution to lack of food is not in our communities is not necessarily a supermarket intervention. When I was doing those urban farm sites and hiring folk, I was not digging in that dirt thinking, ooh, we are sure will be glad when Walmart come and build a grocery store. That was not what I was talking about. What I'm talking about is self-sufficiency. I sure will be glad when we can operate effective grocery stores that actually make money in our community. I'll be really happy when we have a viable local food system that can employ people. Be happy about that. But I was not thinking about Walmart or any major chain grocery store coming into the community under the pretense of providing food justice for us. So I'm going to ask you, you know, do you scratch the phrase food desert out of your vocabulary when you are describing community? Because you don't live in a food desert, nobody you know lives in one. And our conversation, where is soul food in this conversation? As an African American, I have been taught from a very early age that soul food is okay, but you know what, you can't, you know, not even you can't eat too much of it, it's bad for you. Don't eat that. And I've been taught that on a lot of different levels, and I know being in the South, you all might resonate with it. When I say soul food, y'all know what I'm talking about. But when you say Italian food, people don't say it's bad for you, but ain't it just as bad? They say, ooh, it's heavy. I was in Paris a couple years ago, and I was, you know, eating French food, you know, like, oh, it's rich. Don't nobody say it's bad for you. Don't run from it. Don't ever eat it. But soul food gets a pretty bad rap. So this issue of food, I began to understand it's not just about whether somebody has it or not. It's about its meaning. What does it mean when it appears on my table and in my room? This was not a part of the food desert study, nor was it a part of the food justice movement that I was getting involved in. And it was really funny to me because I would come into the room and I'd be the only African American person. I'm so glad it's not that way today. I don't know what to do. But more so then, my story around food was not included in the narrative of what food meant. And that was a big problem for me. This new message came out. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants, from Michael Pollan, right? Great idea. You know, but how do you do that in a community where you can get a gun quicker than you get a tomato? So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to revise my food justice conversation. So this is food justice 2.0 that I'm gonna show y'all. Neocolonialism. If you continue to use the phrase food desert, you really are talking about, it really is the Trojan horse of corporate control of our food system. Really, the solution to food deserts is to bring more corporate control. Basically, let's bring in the supermarket. We're going to feed you. Now, how many of y'all, I know y'all all have been to supermarkets and you go to supermarkets, but do supermarkets inherently have healthy food in them just because they're supermarkets? No. So the issue is not the retail access to the food. So when you're talking about the food desert, you're implying that solution is a major chain grocery store, when it's not. The study itself doesn't even look at things that you all work on, urban agriculture. It says that's a non-solution. Farmers markets, growing more farmers, it's not a part of the equation to eliminate food deserts. This is our food system. We have a global industrial complex, much like the prison industrial complex. The prison industrial complex is supplied and built upon the backs of men of color, generally. So is our food system. The pieces of our food system go beyond just agriculture, as you can see right here. We have financial services. I know you all probably are talking with many of the folks that you work with around price fluctuations in the food system. Our financial services, our regulations control those price fluctuations, as well as supply. We talk about warehousing and distribution, but very rarely do we talk about research and development, except to say that we don't like GMOs. But we have to understand that this research and development and education are really tied together. How much money does Cargill and ADM and Monsanto give to universities to do research to push their agenda around food that we really don't want? This is the food system, the industrial food complex that we're trying to change. It's very different from this one. We never had a fair, just, and healthy food system in the United States. So the work that you're doing today is pioneering. You can't look back and find the fair, just, and healthy food system. You have to look forward. You have to develop the courage of your conviction to do this work. Whatever you're convinced about is what's going to take you forward. But you can't look back and find nothing back there except the story of what not to do. It's very hard for us to sometimes in this country to have a conversation about race and class, but we're going to have that conversation a little bit today. Because without the story of the land in the United States, you cannot engage all the communities who need to be at the table in a substantive dialogue about how to change the food system. Because they essentially feel left out. What I've learned to do is include narratives of color in my conversations about food and food justice. And talk about colonialism and historical trauma, particularly how historical trauma has created some of the health disparities and should be used as a framing for public health. Slavery. These are people who are still picking our tomatoes for us and our grapes and not paying a fair wage. We still have a food system that's based upon slavery. And until we get through the issue of slavery in our food system today, we will not have a fair, just, and healthy food system. We cannot have a food system built on any kind of exploitation of land or labor. And of course, then we have eco-trauma. We're living this right now. particularly on the East Coast, in Louisiana, Minneapolis. I'll show a picture of this kitchen, because I sort of like this kitchen. It's not my kitchen. I wish it was my kitchen. It's not my kitchen. But this is the ideal kitchen. But we have to understand that around the world, we have a story to tell. People have different kinds of kitchens. Some people are standing in line in their kitchen. So creating that vision, we have to go beyond the Farm Bill. We just hosted a conference called Blue Plus Justice Equals Democracy. And the conference was very different and innovative in that we used narratives, and we had people's movement assemblies. And our people's movement assemblies broke down along these areas of historical trauma, local food and public investment, hunger relief, economic disparities in industrial food system, land, and labor and immigration. And what came out of these PMAs was a series of principles that we put together with about 360 people who spent 3 days together. You can go to our website and see these. I know I won't be able, obviously, to go through them with you right now. But the goal is to create a grassroots movement across the country to encourage President Obama to expand the executive order mandating environmental justice to include food justice. I think it's a perfectly logical thing for him to do. But I do think we have to ask him. I don't feel that I love President Obama and I love Michelle Obama. I'm very proud of them. But I don't think that President Obama has gone far enough to help us build a fair, just, and healthy food system, and I think we have to make it.
Sure.
The folks that may be looked upon as our opponents are fearless when it comes to idea implementation. We need a little bit of that courage. So I believe that we can do it. I believe that we have to do it. And I believe it will take all of us to do it. So we've asked communities across the country to host day meetings, to go through these principles to see where they agree or where they don't agree and what needs to be changed. And I'm asking you all to spend some time in the very near future. I'll come back down and facilitate a meeting if necessary, but to have a dialogue about what a fair, just, and healthy food system will look like. I'm into visualization and the law of attraction. So this is my slide where we all are standing in the room with the president, and he gets the pens out, you know what I'm saying, and he signs the act and passes them, and passes them around. But I want you to understand that that would just be the beginning of a very long road and a very long, long journey. Just the beginning of a journey to a fair, just, and healthy food system. Thank you.